Africa now. In the recent past, Kenya has been pushing for youth inclusion in leadership and policy-making roles as part of the country's gender and youth governance agenda. Given that 78% of the Kenyan population is under 35 years old, there is a concentrated need to groom youth who see the importance in engaging in policy-making processes to shape the next generation of policymakers in Kenya and around the world. It is upon this background that the British Council has been running the Future Leaders Connect program, a global network for emerging policy leaders, which enables the most outstanding young leaders aged between 18 and 35 years old from around the world to develop their policy expertise, make valuable connection and discuss major contemporary global policy challenges with global leaders and influencers. We want to have this discussion right now here in studio. And joining me, I'll start with the ladies first. To my far left is Jill Coates. She's the Country Director, British Council in Kenya. Welcome. Next to her is Timothy Kipchumba, co-founder of QuestWorks, a real estate consultancy and integrated project delivery. Thank you for making time.
Thank you.
I'll start with you, Jill. What is Future Leaders Connect program?
So the Future Leaders Connect program is a relatively new program for the British Council. It's a global program. It started 3 years ago, and the aim of it is to find exceptional young people across the world with an interest in politics and policy and bring them together at Cambridge University in the UK as part of an interactive conference in the UK Parliament at 10 Downing Street to really try to build the future cadre of young change makers who will move into significant political roles, policy roles in their countries, to bring them together as a group, sharing their ideas around shared challenges, shared problems, and giving them some of the skills that they'll need to get started in their policy making.
Okay, let me just start with why policies, and of course they are themed. You can tell us why the themed policies first, because you are an alumnus.
I think policy, in many ways, has a lot of impact in the way we live. We ignore, now we have cancer in the country, we have health, we have climate change, we have young people that are jobless. And I think one way to really effect change is to ask that policy is passed by parliamentarians and generally politicians and technocrats, and then implemented. And I think that's probably the reason why. My focus area was entrepreneurship, particularly around clean energy and affordable housing, as well as education. And now we see solar, for instance, in Kenya, increasingly becoming a good way to power industries and to have clean energy. And I think that is really the backdrop that to truly make meaningful change, you do need activism, you need soft power, you need other things, but policy is probably more long-lasting.
Okay. Jill, you didn't mention about some of the shared challenges. What are the most common challenges that come up during the program?
I mean, it's interesting how shared the themes are. I mean, obviously climate change is huge, but also sort of things that maybe you might imagine young people wouldn't be so interested in. Things like tax policy also comes through quite strongly. We also have a lot of gender issues and women's rights issues. We have a whole range, actually. It's absolutely fascinating to read the applications.
Okay, so you have been through the program. You know how it works. How has this impacted you in your life?
Aside getting a free trip to London, which was my first trip, it was a truly phenomenal experience. I met more than 35 friends from around the globe. I had an immersive intellectual experience at Cambridge, learning about policy, power, data science, data misuse, data use, and getting to meet people like Richard Branson, Kofi Annan, 9 world presidents speaking at UK Parliament. It was a truly very experience in that sense. And maybe reflecting back now, probably one of my biggest takeaway was almost like recommitment to the work we do. I run a company called QuestWorks that employs just over 100 young people. We are NCA #1 in the country. We are #1, #2 solar company in the country. And so that commitment to say, if we could build businesses and be role models for other young people, then young people don't need to think they have to steal money to actually get a pathway and a livelihood. That's one. But the other one also is, just this year, we mentored 15,000 high school students and listened to them and learned and collected data from them. Those are 19, 18-year-olds. The median age of the country today in Kenya is 19. If we are not learning and listening to 19-year-olds, we can't possibly be making good policy. Next year, we're hoping to expand to 5 more counties. That's sort of exciting. And I think British Council just made it absolutely clear that the greatest challenge of the next decade really is, how can we give young people opportunities? Yeah. How can we work with young people to create opportunity, whether it's in arts, it's in education, it's in entrepreneurship, whether it's in housing, whether it's in clean energy, whether it's just listening to them and say, what is it you truly care? What is your talent? So that we can help you monetize that talent so that they can be gainfully employed, so that they can demand more from government, so that they can be active in shaping our country, as it were.
For Timothy, it was different because he has that platform to actually share what he learned. What about the people that come through the program and actually don't have the platform? So yes, I have the skills, but I don't have the platform to actually use those policy-making skills. So what happens then?
Well, I think that's an interesting question. I mean, part of the selection is, and the training is to try and create those platforms for people. And part of the sort of forming a global group, in a way, is trying to look at platforms that are broader than at the national level. I think a lot of the work the British Council does is actually trying to create these platforms, and from quite an early age. So all of our work through education, through basic education, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, where we're helping with the core skills agenda around the new curriculum, to our work in TVET, to our work in HE, is actually trying to support young people in developing their own platforms. So I know what you mean, that often when you're young, you know, some of these spaces and these conversations seem so much like a closed shop. But I think, you know, there's a lot of work going on in Kenya and the UK at the moment to actually create these platforms and help young people create them for themselves. And I think when you look at somebody like Greta Thunberg, the young schoolgirl from Sweden who has been leading the climate crisis demonstrations and conversation. She was a schoolgirl, but she managed to create her own platform and inspire her peers around the world. So I think we look for those dialogues, we look for those spaces, we look for that influence, maybe in non-formal and non-traditional places.
Okay, one of the issues that comes up mostly in Africa and even worldwide is the issue that the older generation doesn't seem to make way for the new generation. So then what happens in terms of leadership? Maybe you can say.
I don't think I have an answer for that, but I participated in political campaign for the first time in the last general election, helping my friends that I truly thought, and I did 90 rallies. And it's a difficult job, doing politics. But I think that as young people, really, I don't think we should be disillusioned. I think we should take action every day and say, no one will really give us a shot. We must be able to go out there and say, let's organize, let's mobilize, let's articulate, let's speak, let's stand for each other. Because it's true, young people today, the only people that would understand their suffering is people like them. Which is why it's a really refreshing thing to have people like Ken Okoth walk our paths, because he stood for young people. And we should really demand that we get more young people and less and less and less of billionaires that cannot explain why they've made the billions they are. We need more and more role models that other young people can go and say, you know what, I like what you're doing, and I too could possibly be like you, and,
Yes.
and hopefully better than you.
We'll go to the role model issue, but before that, just back to the issue of the older generation not creating space for the new generation. I'll give an example of Uganda. We've seen Bobi Wine come up, but it's still a problem for him. So then how do we push for the youth to take up leadership position, especially in such scenarios where, you know, I'm trying to push, but the chance is not given to me? Jill?
Well, I mean, one of the things that you were just reporting on in the news today, you know, around Sudan, and I think the digital platforms have, as we know, have transformed the world, and you know, been the foundation of great political change, often amongst youth movements who've managed to come together, who've managed to strategize, who've managed to get their message across the globe through these channels. So I think that's one huge change that we are living through, and that's something that the older generation, I mean, they, you know, short of closing down the internet, there's not a great deal, you know, that's a very free sort of forum for space. But I think part of what this program Future Leaders Connect is trying to do is to tell young people that they can take part in the policy conversation. They can be on that side of the conversation too. And I think what's really brilliant about you know, the work that our alumni from the program have done and the way that they promote the program is that other young people, all the people that Tim works with every year, can see a young Kenyan who is actually making the changes that he wants to see, and that then obviously goes on and inspires others.
Okay, so back to the issue of role models. For example, Kenya, we are facing a lot of graft issues, corruption issues everywhere. So to the young generation right now, looking up to the leaders that we have, why should I do the right thing when the one who came before me did the wrong thing? Many may argue. So then how do you do in such a position?
That's a difficult question. But we, over the last 3 years, we began a program called Mentorship Marathon, which is just connecting role models to young people and saying, let's get Jill, let's get Ashley in front of girls in high school to tell their stories. And through storytelling, through that face-to-face connection, hopefully more young people can get into contact with good people. And there is proven research, unpublished by Strathmore Business School that we did, that they interviewed young people that participated in post-election violence and the ones that did not participate, and asked them, what is it that made these young people cross from being non-violent to being violent? So several factors that could predict whether a young person was likely to be violent by 91%. But one factor could predict whether a young person was likely to be violent by 49%. And that was self-efficacy. So as a result, what we really tried to do at Mentorton, for instance, working with a number of partners, is to say, how can we improve, how can we inspire more self-belief, more self-efficacy in young people? Because if you increase that faith that a young person has, that I, with my own effort, can get the things that I want in life, hopefully we can reverse the impact that bad role models are having right now on many young people. Because I think that, as you say, the greatest strategy of corruption is not just the money that is lost. Yeah. It's that our whole generation grows thinking the only way to get ahead is through corruption. And I think we really must find a way of increasing that belief, that self-efficacy, that self-belief that me as a young person, with my own effort, with my own talent, with support from, say, British Council or other partners, in arts, in education, in entrepreneurship, in anything else, I could get to the future that I want. And I don't think there's a shortcut. It has to be a generational kind of thing that we need to do. And we are very lucky to live in an exciting time. More young people today are hustling, more young people are going out there to say, there is no opportunities, we're going to create opportunities. There is more technology now available, and I think there are more role models available. There's a lot of information. So I am actually even more optimistic that, that we will be better off as a young generation.
Yeah. Tim said it has to start from we ourselves. So I need to do this, this, and this. So what can Kenyans or even other countries watching us right now do for themselves, each youth, not even just waiting for programs, but themselves take that initiative towards creating better leadership?
A large part of it, I think, is just simply listening to young people. The British Council has been publishing a series of reports called Next Generation. We published, I think Tim was part of this, we published Next Generation Kenya reports towards the end of 2017. We're doing these reports right around the world. And when you read multiple versions of this report, what you really get out of it is how similar the challenges for young people globally are. They're not specific to one country. And what young people are saying across the board is, we have some solutions, this is our future, and we need to be listened to.
This is our future. We have some solutions and we need to be listened to. I want to end it at that. Thank you very much for making time to join us here on Bottomline Africa. Of course, to my far left, Jill Coates, the country director, British Council in Kenya, and Timothy Kipchumba, who is the co-founder of Questworks, a real estate consultancy and integrated project delivery. Finally, over 1,000 people attend a Johnny Clegg memorial event in Johannesburg, where artists and dignitaries sang and praised Clegg's pivotal role